Hello everyone. Today I'm going to present you a short story written by the American writer Edgar Allan Poe. First of all, who is Edgar Allan Poe? He is an American writer of the 19th century, a very important author because he is simply one of the greatest representatives of the Gothic literature and nothing less than the inventor of the detective story. His influence as the writer who followed him is indeed immense. He wrote a considerable number of short stories as well as poems. His story is very diverse, sometimes funny, sometimes very dark, and sometimes a mixture of both. In addition to gothic and detective stories, he also wrote adventure stories, landscape description, and stories that would be difficult to classify in one or the other category. What does these stories have in common is that they are all a bit strange. Today, I'm going to tell you about The Murder in the Rue Morgue. This is a short story that appeared in April 1841 in Graham's magazine. This short story is very special because it is often considered as the precursor of a detective story. I choose to tell to you about this short story. First of all, because I love Edgar Allan Poe, and there are many other short stories I could have told you about, but also because I think it is perhaps the best entry point to his work. Indeed, it seems to me to be more accessible than many of these other short stories because of its chiseled investigation will allowing to enter the strange and bewitching universe that is Poe's. Moreover, even though I have read or seen many detective stories, I still think that it is one of the most fascinating. To sum up, what is this story about? The plot revolves around a double murder committed in a house in Paris. A mother and doctor who lived together were murdered in a particularly gruesome way. The doctor's body showed strangulation marks and was embedded in the chimney flue, and the mother's body was found on the cobblestones on the courtyard behind the building. Half decapitated, witnesses agree that they heard two voices, one speaking French and another was language no one can clearly say. The police are completely overwhelmed by this case, and it is up to an exceptional character to solve the investigation. But to solve this investigation, you will first have to show your detective skill. In this case, it is a character called Auguste Dupin. He is a character who appears in three of Poe's short stories, and this is the first one in which he appears. However, he is not the narrator. The narrator is a friend of his whose identity we do not know, and it is through his eyes that we see the investigation unfold and appreciate Dupin's exceptional intelligence. From this point of view, the narrative logic is somewhat the same as that of the Sherlock Holmes investigation, where the narrator is Dr. Watson. Moreover, it is not for nothing that I speak to you of Sherlock Holmes, because Dupin can be considered as the ancestor of Sherlock Holmes. He is indeed the main source of inspiration for the famous English detective. This story can be divided into three parts. First, the story begins with general consideration on the importance of analysis. Then, the narrator introduces the character of Dupin, so that we can understand how much his intelligence exceeds the common man, so much so that this becomes almost human. Finally, we follow the progress and the investigation. This is truly a detective story that follows the convention of the genre, except that it is one of the precursors. The reader can search for the identity of the culprit through the clues hidden here and there, and that is often the case with Poe. There is a mixture of rationality and strangeness, and in a world close to us, and at the same time very far away. The thing I liked the most in this short story is probably the character of Japan himself and his extraordinary intelligence. The one I liked less was perhaps the first part, which I found a little too theoretical. I would have preferred to be plunged directly into the action. I will now read you my favorite passage in which Japan is able to get what the narrator is thinking only through in analytical skills. We had been talking of horses, if I remember aright, just before leaving the Rio Sea. This was the last subject we discussed. As we crossed into the street, a fruiterer with a large basket upon his head, brushing quickly past us, throws you upon a pile of paving stones collected at a spot where the causeway is undergoing repair. You stepped upon one of the loose fragments, slipped slightly, strained. Your uncle appeared vexed or sulky, muttered a few words, turned to look at the pile, and then proceeded in silence. I was not particularly attentive to what you did, but observation has become with me of late a species of necessity. You kept your eyes upon the ground, glancing with a petulant expression at the holes and wood in the pavement, so that I saw you were still thinking of the stones, until we reached the little lake called Lamartine, which has been paved by way of experiment with the overlapping and width blocks. Here your countenance breaking up and perceiving your lips move, I could not doubt that you murmured the word stereotomy, a term very affectedly applied to the species of pavement. I knew that you could not say to yourself stereotomy without being brought to think of atomies, and thus of the theories of Epicurus. And since when we discussed this subject not very long ago, and mentioned to you how singularly, yet with how little notice, the vague guesses of that noble Greek had made with confirmation in the late nebula cosmogony, I felt that you could not avoid casting your eyes upward to the great nebula in Orion, and I certainly expected that you would do so. You did look up, and I was not assured that I had correctly followed your steps. But in that bitter tirade upon Chantilly, which appeared in yesterday's museum, the satirist, making some disgraceful allusion to the cobbler's change of name upon assuming the buskin, quoted a Latin line about which we have often conversed. I mean the line "Perdidit antiquum litera sonum". I have told you that this was in reference to Orion, formerly written Orion, and from certain pungencies connected with this explanation, I was aware that you could not have forgotten it. It was clear, therefore, that you would not fail to combine the two ideas of Orion and Changeli. That you did combine them I saw by the character of a smile which passed over your lips. You thought of a poor cobbler's immolation. So far you had been stooping in your gait, but now I saw you draw yourself up to your full height. I was then sure that you reflected upon the divinity figure of Changeli. At this point, I interrupted your meditation to remark that as in fact he was a very little fellow, that Changeli, if for the better at the Théâtre des Variétés. In short, I agree recommended it. Not only is it the founding work of a detective genre, but it has not aged. It is a fascinating investigation. And is if you like the character of Japan, you can read the two other short stories where he appears. The Mystery of Marie Roger, which is the sequel to Murders in the Rue Morgue, and The Stolen Letter. And then you can read all the short story of Poe. See you again.